please. In today's gospel passage, Jesus speaks in parables. Again. He does that a lot. Jesus frequently uses that particular device to get his point across. And in this passage from Mark's gospel, we hear that Jesus preached only in parables as they were able to hear. Parables are brief stories that illustrate a particular religious or moral point. Short tales that communicate universal truths. They're not like fables or legends in that they are true. But they're also not like nonfiction in that they're not always strictly factual. Parables are a kind of extended metaphor, which is one way, and maybe the best way, of grasping the amazing wonder that is God within the limits of human language. To speak of these parables from today as demonstrating that great outcomes arrive from small beginnings is correct, but it's not enough. To note what outcomes might occur provides a better focus. Mustard is a curative, and one that's available to everyone. It's part of the good world God gives us. Like the sun, which insists on shining, the seed insists on growing, to be used by anyone who finds that plant. The mustard plant offers more than a single person can possibly use. The invitation to partake is a universal one, as the birds so neatly demonstrate. Instead of looking at this plant as a weed, we might be better off seeing it as part of the gifts of nature, something so small, allowed to do what it naturally does, produces amazing effects. One commentator I read suggested that one of the markers of the seed is its insignificance. Now, Jesus' initial ministry was not broadly recognized among his fellow Israelites, but it took root and spread, especially among the Gentiles. The church began with just a small group in Jerusalem, but became a global force. This parable speaks of the significance of the seed, that one seed grew into a plant. No seed is or should be seen as insignificant. Each contains within it life. The transformation of seed into plant opens another interpretation. What we see now is potential, but that potential needs to be actualized. The seed has to be planted. Even small actions have the potential to produce great things. Today we know about DNA and other such things, and therefore we have a better understanding of how a seed works. But that does not undo the mystery. At best, it pushes the mystery back to another level. The seed I hold in my hand today, just like each of those grains that the farmer in the parable scattered and let grow, summarizes millennia of evolution. It contains a promise of future plants for as long as the earth will last. The farmer in the parable can trust the seed to grow according to the promise sealed in it. He must trust the seed to grow because there's little he can do to make it grow and nothing he can do to turn it into any future other than what is already promised in it. In due time, the seed will grow. Because the future is in the seed and not in the farmer's doings, he can sleep and rise day and night, trusting in the promise of the seed. If he were responsible for the seed's growth, he would lose sleep over it, constantly wondering what more he could do to make sure that the seed becomes what it is supposed to be. Unlike the sower in the parable, I have difficulty trusting the seed to grow. This makes me a poor gardener. I'm constantly going out to the garden to see what has sprouted, and I grow impatient with the seed's slow development. If I trusted the seeds a bit more, I would weed and water and let them do their thing. That's what makes this parable both difficult and necessary for me. I know, at least in theory, that the past, the present, and the future are in the hands of the God who has packed past, present, and future into a tiny grain of wheat. But I just can't wait for God to make the seed grow in God's own time. I want to resolve matters now. I want to change the church. I want to change the world. I even want to change myself. All of this is good, but only if it comes within the context of trusting the seed and the God of the seed, and being able to sleep and rise night and day, even while the seed grows. When the seed is ripe, no matter what I've done, or how much sleep I have or have not lost over it, the harvest will come. From these parables, we learn, I think, at least three important lessons. First, some things need to be left alone. Keep exposing the seed to air, and it will not germinate. Not everything or even every one needs our constant attention. We're part of a larger process, and although we may start an action, once started, it can often do quite well on its own. Second, sometimes we need to get out of the way. We're not always the focus. Sometimes we're the facilitator for something bigger than ourselves. The farmer plants or even tosses the seed. Who sowed it is much less important than the bush into which the seed grows. The final image is not a focus on the human actor, but on the results of the action. Third, and maybe most importantly, the images are of domestic matters. The parables are set in a garden or a local field. The kingdom of heaven is found in what today we might call our own backyard, in the generosity of nature and in the daily working of men and women. We're not asked to be concerned with big-time success or big-time results. The challenge of these parables can be much closer to home. Don't ask when the kingdom comes or where it is. The when is in God's time, as long as it takes for the seed to sprout. The where is that it's already present in the world. The kingdom is present when humanity and nature work together, and we do what we're put here to do, to go out on a limb to provide for others, and for ourselves as well. These are hope-filled parables. God will not fail to fulfill the promise of salvation. It is already coming to be in the world, like the seeds sown in the earth, or the remarkable growth of the bush from the mustard seed, silently but powerfully coming to be. Even though our reading ends with yet another reference to why Jesus told parables, it leaves a certain amount of tension in the air. On the one hand, it's as though Jesus uses humble images to tell us as much as we're capable of understanding. On the other hand, even when he explains the stories to those closest to him, they can't seem to understand what's coming to pass. John Calvin once said that God speaks to us in language we can understand. At the same time, we have to acknowledge that the reality of the saving kingdom of God continues to be beyond every human understanding we know. Like the disciples, like the early church, we're caught between understanding and misunderstanding. To follow this teller of parables is to become alive to all the paradoxes and the tensions of his life and death. Goodness appears in human form, and human powers are threatened. Yet death leads to life. What is God's kingdom like? To what shall we compare it? No one answer will ever exhaust the meaning of that question, but it's the question we cannot help asking over and over and over again.